Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. WeatherBrains episode number 595. The pre-show, the magical time of the show where we share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and occasionally say things very outrageous. And man, am I glad. Wait, whoa. You got some facial hair?
You still have those horns hanging out of your ears. What? You haven't gotten that fixed?
No. What are you going, a beard? What is this?
James, who's that guy there? He can't be here. He must be a hacker. We haven't seen Kevin Selly in weeks.
I know.
Well, the guy's been gone so long, he's grown a beard.
I know. I like it.
Thanks. I was off last week and I didn't shave, and I thought, all right, well, let's just see what happens.
So all the years I've been doing this, the consultants say you can never have facial hair because you're trying to hide something and people will not trust you any longer.
Oh, really?
Bull hockey.
now, if you see, Brian is grandfathered in.
Has somebody really said that to you?
Yes.
Come on.
And I went on the air. I went on the air this morning. I did not shave since Friday, and I looked really scraggly, and I did that on purpose to drive the consultants crazy.
Good man.
Now I will shave for the night shift, but when I'm home doing that thing at the house, hey man, whatever goes.
Right.
So this is the new Kevin.
Oh no, I just figured I'd see what would happen. I think it's so gray. I think it's just going to look dirty on TV. But I just thought, well, let's see.
Let it go a week or two.
Your news director didn't come up to you and say, "Hey, what's going on with you?"
No,
not yet.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, they're all afraid of me.
Wow.
As we're going to see, because I'm going to address our other friends to the north too. I have a prepared statement.
Oh boy, this is going to be a good show.
Well, it's kind of I don't want to make a big deal of it. It's kind of disappointing, but they forced my hand, so I had to.
I'm going to ring the bell again for this. This is good.
Y'all have met me. You know that I don't take well to bad. Well, no, I'd say back down. I'm on a fight. I just don't take well to bad behavior and
to bullies.
Well, yeah, there's a little bit of that here. Yeah.
No, you've got to stand a bully down. Look, when I was a kid in Greenbow, Alabama, they would put you in the circle of death. I was probably in like the 3rd or 4th grade, and they get these big guys in middle school, this big circle, and they take the elementary school kids, and they get you in the circle, and one guy would just beat on you, and they toss you to the other side, and another guy would beat on you, and they toss you to some other side, and the other guy would beat on you, and you learned how to fight your way out of the circle of death. And so sometimes you've just got to learn to fight your way out of the circle of death, and they'll never bother you again. So
stunning.
Yep. So let's see here.
That is in a federal penitentiary if they did that.
That classifies as pre-show material. It's not a boring personal story. It's very interesting.
It was very boring. It was
boring.
It was
and that was very, yeah. That was interesting.
Guess what they just turned on at my house today? Guess what they lit?
His 1 gigabit
lit the fiber.
Oh wow!
Ooh. I'm playing around with these. Of course, I can't really do much from here, but looks like, and you'll never get a gigabit. You're not going to get that in the real world, and I understand that. But it seems like I'm averaging about 750 down and 750 up.
Wow! In other words, the internet comes in before you think about what you want.
Yes, absolutely. Brian, come over to my house. You can watch nightcallnurses.com all night tonight and get some really speedy videos there.
I'll meet you there at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, there you go. No, they installed the fiber about 2 months ago, but they had to finish building it out within the neighborhood, and they sent me a note that you want to be turned on. Hey, do you want to be turned on?
Oh,
yeah. Turn me on.
The Russian hacker.
So does the fiber actually come to your house?
Yes, it is. The fiber terminates at a block on the wall outside the house.
All right.
And then it's like Cat 6 cable from there to the rack and the access point and the router and all that kind of stuff. So
shoot, we could run a cable from your house to my house, and I'd probably still get 500 up and down.
There you go. There you go. But another guy, I can't say his name, is probably need to protect his privacy, but there's another guy in the neighborhood who happens to be the head of officiating for the Southeastern Conference, and he has to look at video all the time. And I thought he got one of the lower tiered plans. I went for the whole thing. I went for the gig, man. Just give me everything you got.
Yeah, go for it.
How much does that cost then?
I'll find out. I didn't really ask.
Oh, come on.
He hasn't got the bill yet.
Yeah, I think it's like $120 a month.
Holy
Not
mackerel,
bad.
that's a deal.
It's not bad. Now, you're new. They give you a break, and I think it escalates the second year.
Yeah, you're paying
$1,700 a month.
Yeah, 1,700, 2,000.
But you think back in the old days. I remember back in the 90s where to get a T1 line, which is a fraction of this, it would cost you like $5,000 a month, which was crazy.
It makes me think of that old Difax printer we had in the office at Six.
Man,
one line at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the little
watch.
The little weather service I started, I had to download things from Weather Bank, and they would come in. They would scan in those things at 9,600 baud. Oh
Yes.
my goodness! Wow,
Them's were the good old days.
Yeah. Back in the days when all you needed was 8K.
But now you can upload those 384-hour GFS hurricane projections that much faster.
Yes.
And winter storms too. So there you go.
So how much are you
I'm
putting
very-
on a named storm in the Western Gulf, James?
During your vacation.
Yeah, during your vacation. I forecasted this.
It's these stinking weather conferences. That's when they happen. It's the AMS broadcast deal.
I might get to go. They created some Nexstar Go team of people who would rush to the Gulf Coast if there was a Gulf hurricane threatening, and somehow I'm on it.
All right.
Wow. You'll be down there with all the blow-dried boobs.
And my beard. My
And
half
the
a
beard.
My half a
Your
beard.
beard will be flapping in the wind.
Yes.
I thought when you first said that, I thought you meant you're going to the AMS broadcast
Yeah, I
conference.
did too.
No. Not invited.
It's going to be good.
I wish I were
And
going.
Nate's got me doing some. I'm one of the. What do you call it when you get the session chair
Session chair, yeah.
guy? The only bad thing about that, you have to wear a suit. So
I'm anxious to hear
No,
the
you
result
don't.
of the color wars discussion. That's your real reason for going, right?
yes, we have a little offsite.
Oh,
private gathering.
This is an off-site private gathering.
Well, it's actually it's in the same hotel, but
Loser leave town match.
but it's
yeah,
not AMS sanctioned or endorsed. Apparently,
no.
Who's gonna be at this little shindig?
Are we being nosy here or what?
Excuse me. How many times have you said nosy and asked nosy personal questions on the?
That's exact. No, that's
Multiply
a good
that by
question.
7, and you have the number.
I will say we have representatives from various sections of the weather enterprise that need to be there for this discussion.
We need names.
I understand the AMS is hiring bouncers for the door on that session.
How are
Bouncers
we,
to keep you in.
How are we to give this any credibility without knowing the players? We can't do that.
Well, I don't want to scare them off. I mean, look, I told them.
So you're going to say afterwards who was there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So is this recording? We have.
So we're going to take names and kick something, huh?
Well,
Boy,
what I'm
when
asking
is James ever at a loss for words?
I know.
What I'm asking everybody to do is to check your ego at the door, walk in the room with a spirit of total humility.
Yes.
Forget your power, forget your title, forget whatever big shot you are, and let's come in here and let's see if we can agree on a few things and start the wheels into motion to deliver a simple, unified message across the weather enterprise during times of life-threatening weather. And I don't want this to be another talk at a conference. I'm talked out. I have nothing to say. I have talked and talked and talked. People are sick of hearing me. But we're going to not have another meeting where we talk about it and nothing ever happens. I do not want that. Will not happen at this thing. Something will come out of this. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
And Lance has been a victim on WeatherBrains before, and he's having second thoughts right now. I can tell that in his eyes.
Yeah,
He was
and he's got a beard
on the
too.
show. Yeah.
James, you need to
Watch
live stream this thing. It's a Facebook Live opportunity.
This is a private gathering.
What do you mean a
you
private
need to have
gathering?
witnesses.
Yeah, that's right. How else will it be held accountable?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Facebook Live.
It's accountable to James.
Yeah, let's go live on Facebook.
Mhm.
Speaking of going
Record
live,
it
it's just
and put it out later.
the
Yes.
bottom of the hour here.
Do it
So
live
hang on,
and
let's-
record it and put it out later.
What does
I
the
can't
bottom
wait
of the
to
hour
hear
have to do with anything? We're always
Well,
When
late.
is-
that's
when is this
when, no,
happening?
that's
We've been ready
when
to go for 10
TV
minutes tonight.
the
What is-
I
TV
know.
hits. I
When our
can't do the
guest has
show
been
until-
here, the gang has been here. Good gosh.
What is the date of this big meeting?
Next
Put
week.
this, I have to put
It's
this on my calendar.
Thursday.
Thursday
Is that
week
next
from-
week.
Are you on vacation next week, James? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So we got you covered next week for radio and all that.
Thursday.
Yes. This will be Thursday, the 22nd of June.
We need you. What's your hashtag? We need you to live tweet this too. We have
Oh,
to come up with a
brother.
hashtag. I'm working. I gotta take notes on this. I gotta take a hashtag.
That's great. What have I? What is going on
Hashtag
here?
weather massacre.
Yeah. So we're gonna come up with something.
It is commonly referred to as the padded room session.
No. I'm gonna come up with
All right.
something. Before. I still have to
Good
do the Fox
evening.
show.
Stop talking for a minute. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our television audience. It is 30 minutes after the hour, and this is WeatherBrains, and we're going to start this show like right now. So that's kind of like awesome. So, and the lovely Aubrey has just joined us. Aubrey, give us a mic check real quick, please, ma'am. Hello.
She's
No,
not
she
listening.
can't hear us.
Who,
No,
me?
she's not even.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hi.
Loud and clear. So you've solved your problem. You don't. It works good every time.
I
now.
wasn't sure you were talking to me. Sorry. I forgot we had WeatherBrains tonight. I thought it was only on Thursday. So whoopsie.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, we were doing two shows this week. We'll explain it here. Let me get the recorders going here.
All right. Some part of the name has to have the word mania in it.
Yeah.
Oh, brother.
Or maniac.
Challenge
Here we go.
accepted.
Weather mania
And-
is not right. We're trying to name James's top secret color wars meeting.
Kevin is
Hashtag.
off his Kevin's off his meds tonight. This could be a great show. These are the best shows when he's
Well,
talking.
Aubrey needs
like
to know
this.
what's going on. We're trying to come up with a hashtag for James's color wars meeting that's happening.
It's not
that we
about.
He won't
I
tell
don't even
us.
know if we're going to talk about map colors. That is. You have to pick your
Oh.
battle.
Ah,
It's the unified
I
message.
don't
Unified
even-
message. That's it.
Unified
message
simple
mania.
message.
Unified
Exactly.
message mania is the hashtag.
Here
And
we
the show-
go.
And the show title.
And the show title in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, this is WeatherBrains, the weekly show that's all about weather. This is episode number 595 for the 12th of June, 2017. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us as we are now deep into meteorological summer, and we've got some very important people in the room here, including the lovely Aubrey Urbanowitz. Brian, you thought I was going to say your name, didn't I?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Aubrey, how are you?
I am very good. How are you?
Good. You look relaxed and
Thank you.
laid back, and you look comfortable tonight.
Good. Good.
So what's
Appreciate
happening in Virginia?
It's very hot, but we have not hit 90. This whole East Coast hot wave, we have not hit 90 degrees. So we'll get one more chance, but probably not going to. And then we'll get some storms in here.
Everybody in Texas appreciates you. It's very hot, but it hasn't hit 90.
I know. You
hasn't
can't be
hit
hot if you haven't hit 90. I'm sorry, Aubrey.
No,
but
And
just
you
can't.
know what? The dew point is 57.
Oh, how are
Oh,
you
no
surviving?
sympathy whatsoever.
That's when it was
Yeah.
cool and comfortable around here.
Our dew point's like 77 here. Wow.
That's your winter dew point, isn't it?
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. So let's see. The voice you heard is Kevin Silly. Kevin has been mysteriously absent for a few weeks. And
Sorry about that. I miss all you guys.
And you're sporting a new look.
Oh, it's just a little scruff. I was on vacation and I got used to not shaving, so I thought, oh, we'll see what happens. And it probably just doesn't look very good on TV, but I don't care.
I just can't believe they let you do this. I mean, it's like they say, the consultants tell us you can't have facial hair. The viewers think you're hiding something and you can't be trusted.
That's hysterical.
How
Our
about Scruffy Mania?
scruffy mania.
Scruffy Mania.
That could be it. Our morning guy has some level. I think he's got a goatee or something, and the consumer reporter, he has facial hair. So I don't know. You know,
It's a Wichita Falls thing.
That's it. So maybe someone will come along and tell me not to. I don't know. We'll see.
No, you're a good looking. It looks good. I think it's a fantastic look. But Brian's got some facial hair. Brian Peters, the internationally beloved meteorologist. How long you had that beard, mustache there, Brian?
45 years.
Wow. And he's only 47.
Wow. And I'm only 47.
He went through puberty at a very young age.
That's all right. I was as bald as James is for about the first 3 years. My mother was getting very concerned, and then finally the hair came out.
That's funny.
Wow. Awesome. No, but Brian's got that good Colonel Sanders look. The old ladies love him.
Yeah.
At Christmas time, he looks like Santa Claus.
I've got to follow up on this. So the consultants were telling you shouldn't have anybody on your staff with facial hair, and yet you hired me.
Yeah.
Well, no, they didn't say that. Now, they said that to those that have been on television for a long time with this same look. You should just not appear one week with a beard and facial hair. They think something's going on and you're hiding something. You're grandfathered in.
I'm grandfathered.
There you go.
It also goes back to James's comments about tropical coverage that you're expendable, Brian.
Yeah. I do recall that one. Yes, vividly. So you're going to get me on the Hurricane Hunter again this year?
Sure, man.
I'm ready to go.
Good hurricane. And it looks like there could be some action down there next week. And again, this show's on June 12th. And it's always during a weather conference. The AMS Broadcast Meteorology Conference is next week in Kansas City. So hopefully it's not going to be an issue. But look who's back. Bill Murray. He's been on some kind of junket, one of these boondoggle trips.
Yeah, I hear you get my location wrong every week. Scott told me today y'all had me at a casino last week. That was
Atlantic
3
City,
weeks ago. So you get this stuff straight. Yeah, I was in New York City last week with the family on vacation, and that was a lot of fun, which was bad because I missed the NWA mid-year meeting in Norman because it was scheduled during that time and we couldn't change. But we actually saw the Broadway play Natasha Pierre and the Comet of 1812, which won a bunch of Tonys last night, and we had seen Evan Hansen in November, which won all the Tonys last night. So that was a lot of fun. So we enjoyed New York City. So
is that the one where Trump is assassinated?
No, that was a different deal. That was Shakespeare in the Park. So that was interesting. So. But I heard my name on a tweet while I was in a restaurant in New York City last Monday night, something about chicken. So fess up, Brian Peters, what happened?
What?
I heard that the chicken episode with Ari Sarsalari came up during WeatherBrains last week.
Chicken episode.
Yeah. It's some kind of ugly name for a chicken dish. Is kind of tacky.
I think he messed it up. It actually is called "Shut the Cluck Up" is what it was.
Oh boy!
Wow.
I'm. Wait a minute.
I'm
gonna blow my buzzer on that.
Almost said show title, but I think that's a little too far.
No.
Nashville hot chicken here in Birmingham. Yeah,
wow. And this is on television too. Bill just got kicked off the TV channel.
No. Probably one of your advertisers at your TV station is Nashville chicken place.
Goodness.
Yeah. All right. Well, Bill, bring in our guest before he runs.
Wait. Can I do my statement first? I have to make a statement.
Oh yeah. Oh, hang on. Kevin has to say something.
I still have to do my Fox show, so I'll go, but I'll come back. But I really didn't want to bring this up at all, but I have a prepared statement. I have something written out because I wanted to make sure that this was done at least somewhat properly. We can talk about it, and then sorry to Lance, but we can talk about it if you want. We don't have to. But a couple of weeks ago, I got a note from Mike Morgan at KFOR in Oklahoma City. He was concerned that I was misrepresenting a conversation that he and I had last year at the National Weather Fest in Norman. Mike said that I have mentioned that conversation at least twice on this show, and he felt like I was suggesting that he had told me that his television station had given him instructions to hype severe weather coverage. I don't remember it that way, and Mike and I went back and forth on the details of our conversation. I did tell Mike that I would be happy to discuss our conversation on the show. He declined and told me not to discuss it again on the show. I told him I was not going to agree to any restrictions on what I would or would not talk about. I really wanted to let the issue drop until a few days later when my news director told me that a Ms. Hughes, who is the news director at KFOR, had called him and asked him to tell me that they didn't hype weather coverage. The conversation about weather coverage in Oklahoma City and across the country is an interesting one. Mike and I went back and forth on the topic. He became increasingly frustrated with me and eventually demanded a conversation between he and I and our respective television station management. I told him that my station management would have no knowledge or contribution to the conversation, but that I was willing to chat with him, repeatedly inviting him on the show, giving him my telephone number as well. The exchange ended with Mike telling me that he would call me the following week. As I said, I really wanted to let this drop, but Mike and his news director, Ms. Hughes, forced me to say something. Mike, you're always invited on the show, and you're never invited to tell me what I can and cannot say here or anywhere else. Ms. Hughes calling my news director on a topic he has no knowledge of without contacting me first to hear the other side of the story shows an amazing lack of professional courtesy and represents a stunning breach of journalistic ethics. Furthermore, when I told you via email this had nothing to do with my employer, sending me a note with screenshots of 3 of my social media platforms that include my television station dances dangerously close to a threat and is unacceptable behavior. So now, having to respond, because y'all know me, here is the message. Standards really rarely go out in a blaze of glory. They are eroded a little bit over time. And oftentimes it is hard to see those standards eroding, particularly for those directly involved. I'm not in Oklahoma City to get the full experience of what is going on there, but the weather enterprise as a whole seems to understand that something unhealthy is happening. Anxiety and confusion are increasingly being injected into a system that is already under stress. Thank you very much. I'm done.
Wow.
Brian.
Okay.
I'm happy to talk about it. I'm happy to not talk about it, but forcing my hand, I felt like I had to say something because it was coming to the level of bullying.
Why did you feel the need to write it down like that?
Because I wanted to I wanted to organize my thoughts in a way that I wouldn't ramble on and on and on about it and cover the points that I didn't want. You know, sometimes I will get off. I'll go off track and get I'll get excited about something and just keep going down. But I wanted to stay on target. No, there's no legal reason in my mind to do that.
This was Tom Jackson versus Rush Limbaugh on ESPN in 2003.
Well, again, I'm sorry, and I would have been happy to let it go, but you folks kind of went over the line, in my opinion.
What is Mike's reason for not coming back on the show?
I don't want to speak for him. I invited him several times. I tried to get a feeling for why he was contacting me in the first place. The original note was via Facebook, and we went back and forth. And I understand. Well, I'm getting off track of your question. Your question, I don't know. I can't. I think that I shouldn't speculate because he doesn't want me to speculate, and I shouldn't. I can see where he interpreted what I have said about our conversation in the past. I'm not suggesting anybody is intentionally hyping the weather. Nobody does that. Nobody intentionally does that. But that's why I made the comment about standards, eroding slowly over time. Nobody is coming forth and saying hype the weather. You remember there was something on CNN some months ago, it was back in wintertime, where somebody said that management was trying to tell the meteorologists to hype things up a little bit, amp things up, and the reporters that were out in New York in the snow or wherever they were. I don't think anybody's doing that, but there is a trend, and we've talked a lot about it on this program, and I think that it's unfortunate. But again, I would have been happy to kind of leave it go. I couldn't leave it go by saying, yes, I'm not going to talk about that anymore, because that's an affront to freedom of speech. I just wasn't going to have that happen. But then it sort of escalated as I described, and I just didn't think that was right. I think it came down to bullying or a threat.
Well, I would love to do just a whole show on Oklahoma City, the market, and television weather, in that a lot of people have strong opinions on it. And this is an open invitation for hopefully some of our friends, Mike or David Payne or Damon Lane, to come on the show, or maybe not necessarily the Chiefs, but just somebody to come on the show from some of the different stations and talk about it. But I don't think when Mike was on, and that was episode 404, and that was, I will say, it was a bizarre episode, but I don't think anybody was hostile to Mike, were we, on that one?
I don't feel so.
I thought we tried to be as courteous and let him have an open platform, and this was after the El Reno tornado, and he had an open platform, and I don't think we attacked him. And again, there's some remarkable things that are done there in terms of television weather coverage, and some issues I think that need to be addressed because they might spread to other markets. But so I'll just leave it at this. And again, open invitation for anybody that wants to come on from Oklahoma City. Get in touch with our guest booking officer, Bill. So.
That includes the lawyers for KFOR who are going to come sue me now.
I am monitoring the emails. I have not gotten anything just yet.
Yeah, we're monitoring the Twitter and the emails. So yeah,
I'll be looking for the certified mail to the WeatherBrains World headquarters here.
It would be nice to understand. I would love to hear from someone on the Oklahoma market because I think many of us don't understand the Oklahoma market. So.
Right, and I will say this: it is very easy to criticize when you're not in a certain market because we don't understand the culture, we don't understand the people, the audience. We don't understand. It would be like somebody coming into my market. They don't understand. I do. I've been here forever, and it's very easy to be critical. But there are some issues I think we need to address as a weather enterprise and look at some of the stuff. I think there's friction. There's obvious friction, Kevin, when you say that between various members of the weather community within television and the NOAA, the Weather Service, and the SPC guys.
Well, there clearly is something going on because everybody in the enterprise seems to know about it, and we've talked about it back and forth, up and down, backwards and forwards. The reason I had to stop this down, I felt like, is again, I didn't like the behavior directed at me, and I didn't think that was acceptable, and that's why I felt like I had to call them out. I think there was an implied threat by the news director in my mind, of going past me to my news director, who she knows. They apparently went to college together. And blindsiding him with a conversation he knew nothing about, and then again trying to tie my comments here to my job here being the WeatherBrains, to my job at KFDX. I really didn't appreciate it. I think it was unprofessional.
Okay, well, again, standing
invitation. It's probably unprofessional for me to not let it go, but at the same time, I think it bordered on a bullying thing, and we were talking in the pre-show. Somewhere you said something about bullying. You said, James, and I don't think that's right.
Yeah, it is what it is. And again, we would love to carry on this discussion with somebody representing the weather community in Oklahoma City. And I know that maybe one person can't represent everybody, but Rick Smith obviously would probably have to recuse himself. Rick's the WCM out there, but I just think there's some issues that we need to talk about in a, open adult type way and see if we can start, if there are any issues, we come up with some solutions so that it doesn't happen somewhere else.
Well, all right, I'm Bill, sorry to hijack the program there.
All right, go, Bill.
Yeah, James, you can just take your padded room show on the road and just head south. You get there in Kansas City. So, we have Lance Rothfuss, the Deputy Director of the NSSL, the National Severe Storms Laboratory. Lance, thanks for sitting here for 25 minutes. You've hardly gotten a word in edgewise. I'll ask if you have an opinion on that discussion, and I'll take a no comment if you want one. But do you think we're hyping severe weather in general in the weather industry too much these days?
Well, that's a tough one. This is what you're supposed to start with, a softball question, right?
we want to know what you think about Oklahoma City television weather.
Oh no, it's a challenge. It's a business. It's a market, and you have to do what you need to do to carry that business. But at the same token, you have the public trust, and you have to work with your partners in the weather enterprise, including NOAA and National Weather Service folks. So it's not unique. I will say, from my history, it's not unique to Oklahoma City either. There are other markets out there that have challenges like that, and you work through them. It's a partnership. I will say that when I was the MIC in Atlanta, Brian, you know all about this.
Oh yes.
There were some things in the local media market that were kind of crosswise with the National Weather Service, and both ways. It went both ways, and the only way you can address that is to sit down and have an honest adult conversation, and things start to work out as a result of that. So I'm not going to comment on the inner workings within the Oklahoma City market, but I will just say, just in general, it's a professional courtesy to be working these things out.
And I'm going to be managing his campaign for whatever office he runs for.
There you go. Well, eventually, he'll probably be running for NWA president one day. So that.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
So Lance, when did you leave Atlanta? When did you head to Oklahoma City?
I left in 2012. Matter of fact, I think the last time I did WeatherBrains, I was still the MIC in Atlanta, and I bet it wasn't 6 months later that I leaped the fence over to the research side, OAR and National Severe Storms Laboratory, and it was a great move for me personally and professionally. But I miss the day-to-day operations, the forecast in the morning, getting those calls at 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, come in, we need you to work the radar and all that.
I bet you weren't thinking that during Snowmageddon.
No, you're right. There were some things I didn't miss, and in fact, that was the AMS meeting right after that. I was walking through hallways. If I had $1 for every time somebody came up to me and said, "Aren't you glad you're gone?" or "Aren't you glad you're not here?" I could have retired right there.
So you were there obviously during the SEC basketball tournament tornado.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if we talked about that, but. I saw one of the SEC storage shows on the other night on the SEC network about that. Talk about that situation for a minute. I thought that'd be an interesting walk down memory lane.
Well, I could fill out 45 minutes just on that one alone.
Well, good. You can come back Thursday and we'll just finish the conversation.
It was an awesome, just a great event for the Atlanta office and for the community. That things work and that you rely on your talent in your office. In fact, I had gone out for dinner that night with some friends, and this is in Peachtree City, which is south of Atlanta, and the lights flashed. And so I thought, well, that's kind of weird. And so I get this phone call, and I knew there were storms way up to the northwest, but I get the phone call and say, "Hey, you need to come in. We think there's been some damage in Atlanta." So I drive into the office, and I walk in the door, and Brian can appreciate this too. I walk in the door, and Steve Nelson, who is the Sioux and still is the Sioux, he's looking at me walking in the door, and he's shaking his head. He's doing this. And of course, that's an MIC's worst nightmare, is that yes. Atlanta got hit by a tornado, and my Sioux, one of my lead scientists in the office, is shaking his head, and I'm going, what happened? And he said, "Those storms shouldn't be there." Is it, what do you mean they should be? Well, there's two little supercells that worked their way out of the northwest and came through, produced a tornado in downtown Atlanta. I said, "Did we have a warning out?" "Oh yeah, we had a warning out." Well, I about melted on the floor right at that moment, because it was like,
you were imagining the worst, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. And I said, "What was this?" "No." He said, "Well, those storms just shouldn't be there. This doesn't make sense." Well, it was to his credit that he was on the ball, paying attention to the road. You see a couple of the storms come across. The tendency is sometimes to let your guard down, and Steve's not like that. He paid attention, and he was on top of it, issued the warnings. I will say the next day, going out and doing the damage surveys was also quite a challenge, just because that was the day before another tornado outbreak. So I had to do the interviews. Oh, and we're doing the flyover, by the way, doing the damage surveys. Flying over the damage area downtown Atlanta, I'm thinking, okay, this is probably a regional story, local story, certainly, regional story. And then I saw that it hit CNN. I went, oh my God, this just went to an international story. But we got out there, we did the damage survey as quickly as we could, because the warm front had worked its way back again, and it was going to pop, and it did later that afternoon. So even the mayor of Atlanta, I had to say, things were okay. We did our survey. I gave it a preliminary rating. Thank you very much. I got to get back to the office, because we got another full day of activity. And in fact, that was one day I've got imagery of 12 supercells all along basically I-40 corridor from east to west in Georgia. So it was just a fantastic, exciting couple of days, and I credit that office in Peachtree City for doing a great job.
That's fantastic. Well, when you and I talked the other day, I'm gonna move on to the questions that I was going to ask toward the end, toward the front, Lance, because of what Kevin had to say, and I think this is all pretty interesting. But you've mentioned something called a mutual intimidation syndrome between broadcasters and the Weather Service. And I think that's an interesting theory, and I'd love to get the panel's thoughts on that too. Explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, it was more. I put this in the category of an observation, and it's not. It didn't with me. It didn't start between necessarily TV meteorologists and operational Weather Service folks. It actually started when I did take that leap from the National Weather Service forecast operations into the research world, going to NSSL, heavy research. That's what we do, and for 25 years in the National Weather Service, I always could tell that the forecasters were intimidated by the researchers. You get these really smart people, the researchers that are doing awesome things, building new radars, also building new algorithms, new models, and all this. And we forecasters, I still count myself in that category, we forecasters tend to be intimidated by those researchers. Well, I was shocked when I got to NSSL and starting having conversations with the researchers, only to find out that they are equally intimidated by the operational forecasters. I thought,
so this is like 6th grade boys and girls, huh?
Yeah. Exactly. I don't want to talk to them because they're intimidating. Well, probing a little more deeply, they're saying, man, these are the people that are on the front line making life or death decisions with their warnings and their forecasts and all that. We've got nothing but respect for them, and they're really intimidated. I don't know that I would want to go into an operation setting and have to do what they do. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Well, fast forward to a couple of weeks now. Bill mentioned the National Weather Association mid-year meeting that we had. I was sitting there talking to Alan Seals, and he said just about the same thing, only as it pertained to TV meteorologists and National Weather Service forecasters, that there's this mutual intimidation that goes both ways. Each one is a little intimidated. Now, that's not universal. Certainly there are individuals that can work both sides and all that, but it struck me that we have this sort of three-way mutual intimidation going on that doesn't need to be there, shouldn't be there. We're all in the same business. We're all, pulling for the same end goal here. So it's just one of those, we have AMS meetings and NWO meetings, we get folks together. I think that helps considerably, but there is still that underlying mutual intimidation, whether you call it a syndrome or a factor or whatever. But I just sort of tossed that out to Bill as an observation, especially since I moved from operations over to research side. So I like to hear the panel sort of thoughts on that.
I say fascinating and amen.
Okay. All right. I guess Kevin's working really hard. Can you elaborate on your observation, Kevin?
I got to do this Fox show, but I'm amazed to hear that. I completely understand it. It kind of speaks toward what James, I guess, is moving toward. Is let's everybody just check our egos or our fears or whatever at the door, and why don't we all just get along? But I'm sorry, I can't expand on it really. But I really appreciate his comments.
Well, James, I know you don't suffer from that syndrome, do you?
I think we're all intimidated by each other. I would have fear working a forecast shift during a tornado outbreak, actually being responsible for issuing the warnings. I don't do that. And I've talked with many a Weather Service forecaster, and they say the same thing about what we do. They have this great fear about standing in front of a green wall for 10 hours doing nonstop weather. I think we all have to respect our gifts and each other's gifts and our strengths and weaknesses, and try and collaborate and talk and use our strengths together and know what our weaknesses are. And we need to plug in where we're strong, and that makes the whole weather enterprise strong. And I do think it's a good idea sometimes to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. I would love to sit down and work a shift at the Weather Service one day and be the guy that has to issue the warnings. I would have an all new respect for that, and vice versa, to come in here. And the same thing for the researchers. I totally agree with what Lance is saying. It's a great comment.
I think so too. Brian, I doubt you share any of those observations, or do you?
Well, yes, I do. I think Lance's
You've been on both
observations.
sides of the broadcast and the Weather Service side.
Yeah. Well, and James kids about this, but I think some of my colleagues at the National Weather Service in Birmingham think I went to the dark side. I mean, by moving, from weather service forecasting to television weather. But I want to say that the advent of the IWTs, or whatever the committees are called in the different states, I really think that has gone a long way to helping. I know in my tenure at the Birmingham National Weather Service, I was the warning coordination meteorologist, and I think there was some of what Lance is describing between weather forecasters in the Weather Service and EMA officials. And I was happy to say that I participated and was able to get some of that done away with by sharing what's going on in the Weather Service office and sharing what the EMA people were telling me with the Weather Service folks, so that we had an exchange. And that's why I think IWTs are so important. And I'm not sure they're not meeting often enough. I know we don't need more meetings to go to. Nobody needs one more meeting to go to. But I really think that especially on the television side, it's very hard to get to these meetings sometimes. I know James just found out about one in Mississippi that's going to be Thursday, which makes it kind of hard to get to at such last minute. But I really applaud these meetings. And the nice part would be, if you live in a city like Norman or Oklahoma City, would be to get researchers involved as well in the IWT, not just the operational folks. I think that would help some also. Communications really is an important issue.
So Aubrey, anything to add to that? She looks muted. She may be unable to talk right now. So I guess NWS chat has probably helped in a lot of ways in this regard too.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know that I feel some intimidation in terms of education and knowledge when I'm working a severe weather event, with dealing with Weather Service personnel, but that's out of respect to their knowledge and their experience, and you work together in that situation. But the chat seems to me to help mitigate some of that.
Well, I'm glad Brian brought up the IWT. When I was in Atlanta, we held one of our IWT meetings, and there's another factor here. He brought out the emergency management. I think there's that intimidation that goes on. In fact, there was one moment in our first IWT in Atlanta where one of the local TV meteorologists was talking to a small county emergency manager, and the small county emergency manager basically told him, "Look, I don't want you coming to my county with your cameras because you intimidate me, you scare me. This is not something that I want to see happen." And the TV meteorologist was taken aback by that. What do you mean? He said, "Look," and this is kind of the way the emergency management business is. Right? You know as well as anybody. Some of these folks are on the bubble, right? They are one, or at least they feel they're one screw up away from losing that job. And when the TV cameras roll in, that is just extra pressure that may burst that bubble, and it makes them very uncomfortable. And it's a reality out there that these are tenuous positions for some people, and to have a camera show up at that out there is not a good feeling. So again, going with the IWT, we got a lot of that on the table, and it sort of built the trust, and that's really what we're talking about here, building the trust across the sectors and ensuring that the entire weather enterprise works. I will add to this also. Oh, Brian, you got something to say?
No, I was going to say, at the IWTs, I'm not so sure it's just the presentations as much as it is they ought to have lots of breaks and long breaks, because that's the time where an EMA director or a radio station person or a television station person can get a chance to get to know one another a little more personally. And I think that breaks down some of this intimidation. Go ahead, Lance.
Yeah, well, the other thing I was going to add here, kind of putting in a plug for the National Weather Association, I'm going to throw my parent agency under the bus a little bit here. At a recent NWA meeting a couple of years ago, I looked around the room room packed with operational forecasters. And I started looking around for where the research community was. How many folks from OAR and in particular NSSL were there? In case of OAR, in this particular meeting, there was only 2 there. We had a room for about 400 people, 400 operational types, whether broadcasters or weather service, and only 2 researchers in the room. Well, wow. I had it at that point. So I have been working feverishly to almost shame the research community and getting out there. And we are seeing better turnouts now. In fact, the next one out in California is going to have some very good turnout. That's from the federal side. There is good representation from the cooperative institutes that assist the federal researchers, but we can do better. I will just say that way. The research community can do a lot better. I kept telling them, you got a whole room full of clients. You have a whole room full of clients waiting to tell you what their needs are, what their research challenges are. Why are we not showing up? So this is another part of that mutual intimidation syndrome where they do things that I don't understand, so I'm just not going to show up. That's not right. We got to do better.
Brian, I think we can.
Brian can probably answer this, or maybe you, Lance. I don't think, Brian, do we see the EMs in our chat in Birmingham? Do we see what they say?
I believe so. I think
I do in other markets, but for some reason in Birmingham, and maybe I have a remedial chat, authority or something.
Well,
but
and Bill, you're asking the wrong person here, because most of the time when I'm in the Storm Chaser, I'm not accessing. I would like to access the chats, but there's only so many things you can do when you're driving the Storm Chaser, and keeping up with the radar is one of them, plus driving safely. So I don't really see the chats that much, but I think they're supposed to be there.
I know they are in most places in the country, and I'm sure that was the case in Atlanta, right, Lance?
Yeah, we had them both in there. Although again, because we hadn't built that trust yet, there was some chilling effect early on, especially when we started. But over time, as they got used to it, that sharing of information grew.
Well, I know that.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Brian.
How often, Lance, did the IWT meet before you left Atlanta? Was it just once a year?
I only did one, and then I left.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I think ours only meets once a year. As far as I know, and I think it would be a good idea. I like I said, nobody needs another meeting, but I think it would be a good idea to meet more than once a year, but at least 2, it would help. Yeah,
well, at least one, just get together at least once a year. Just get it going, and they've continued it. I know that in Atlanta, Jessica Few, who has left now, she was the one responsible for sort of breathing life into that and keeping it going, but. You got to do it.
There's a plug for your NWA local chapter out there, so that's a good opportunity.
Yeah. Well, and I have to say that the things that Lance is saying positively about IWTs, you also hear from the EMA folks, because
I thought it was great when Gina Iosco did her thing down at UAB. There were a bunch of emergency managers and hospital administrators and all sorts of different levels and strata of people, a lot of broadcasters, and boy, the interaction that day, Brian, was just super. I mean, it really was a shake your hand. Hey, here's my card. Call me if we can have lunch. I thought it was good. It was like seeing each other as humans.
Well, James mentioned this, that, we really need to walk a mile in each other's shoes. Mm-hmm. And maybe you're intimidated sitting at the warning forecast desk to put out severe weather warnings, but just understanding with a one-on-one conversations, it really does help. And it's one of the reasons why I like to go to NWA national meetings, is because there is a lot of that, cross-pollination, to lack of a better term, of thoughts and thinking and about what's going on their side of the field of the weather enterprise versus my side.
Well, that's a good segue, Lance, to talk about the RON that'll be going on during the NWA in Garden Grove.
Well, actually, that's a nice segue from the whole topic we have been covering, because the RON really got started as a result of that frustration that the researchers were not showing up to the NWA meetings. We're missing the opportunity to share. So we worked together. Several of us worked on this notion called the RON, the Research to Operations Nexus. Got to have an acronym, right? So,
And a very appropriate one.
and it just so happened, yeah, exactly. It was entirely appropriate. It was a year or two after Ron Prespolinski had passed away, and we couldn't think of a better tribute to Ron's legacy and what he did, other to have researchers and operations folks sitting in the same room talking about what their issues are, what their needs are. So we really kind of put this thing together on a whim, if you will. 3 years ago now, this will be our third year in California, to basically do a meetup where you got researchers and operations and people who have similar interests to sit at a table, and for 10 minutes they just talk about what their needs are and make connections. The first time we did this in Oklahoma City at the NWA meeting, I couldn't, it exceeded our expectations, primarily because we had a lot of these researchers that have never connected with operations people and vice versa, who were connecting and exchanging business cards and saying, yeah, I'm interested in that. Can we work on a project? And as a result of that, I think it has spun off some collaborations. Did it lead to big breakthroughs or anything? Not yet, but we're doing the right thing. And so that's what we're going to be doing again in California with this RON, Research Operations Nexus meetup.
So this is a really big deal, and we need to make sure, for everybody who's attending NWA, that this is out there and that you got it on your calendar, because the icebreaker should run. It looks from 6 to 8 on that Monday night. That timing could change, but it looks like it'll be from 6 to 8. And then the RON will run from 7 until 9 in an adjacent room. So you'll be able to go to the icebreaker and then, go and attend and be part of the RON, which is huge. And Brian and I are going to have a big role, and whoever else comes from WeatherBrains. I don't know if James is going to get to come, but I know Brian and I will be there. And we're going to actually be interviewing people as they come from the tables that night at the RON. So it's going to be a very exciting time. Bruce Thomas, our friend from Midland Radio, is going to help be the go-between to get the right people to our tables. But we want to make sure we have a really good attendance at this event, because it is growing. And I know Monday night's an important night for people to get out and socialize and things like that. But if you're involved in the research side or the operations side, or broadcasting, any part of it, you really need to put this on your calendar for that event. It's going to be a really exciting meeting. And Greg Stumpf and Alan Gerard, Lance, everyone that's involved with the team has worked so hard to put this together. And it's a really well-oiled machine that is going to be a big success that night. So we're looking forward to that. So Brian, get that big mixer that you got. And we're going to be ready to go out there and put on some really good interviews that night back at the show. The show will probably start a little early that night. Might have to start about 4 o'clock, Brian.
Yeah, we may have to.
Or I don't know what that time change will be, but we'll see how that goes. So, we talked about the difficulty of sitting in that hot seat, Lance, and you got the hot seat simulator out there. That's a chance for us to get a feel for what it's like to be over there issuing those warnings. And you showed it again at NWA last year in Norfolk, and then I think you had it out at the AMS meeting. What's the status of the hot seat right now?
Well, we are still in beta mode, but it's out there on NSSL's webpage right now, on NSSL education portion of our webpage. And again, Brian and I go way back. You may remember we did this back in Atlanta, actually, for the WeatherFest for AMS meeting for, oh boy, it's almost 10, 12 years ago now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we had it up and running in Atlanta, and it sort of withered after I left, only because it was so hard to keep it going with JavaScripts and all that. Well, I got to NSSL and realized that it sort of had not been kept up, and I said, "We'll take it. We'll load it on NSSL's website, and we'll administer it from our point of view on a national base." And if you're not familiar with Hot Seat, let me see if I can do my screen change here. I gotta images have changed from a bill. How do I?
Yeah, up on the left side now, because it does look different than when we did our test. Go on the left side of this, and hover over that
Oh, I got
green screen
I got it.
share icon right there. That's funny. It looks different tonight than it looked during the test today.
Yeah, I thought you're just messing with me here. That's what. So what we have here is a simulator, a warning simulator that you can run at varying speeds. So I'm going to run it at 5 times the speed. Otherwise, it's like watching paint dry if you run it at normal speed. But the whole notion here is that you have points that you score by issuing successful warnings, and the way you issue the warning is simply to drag your polygons. And we thought this was a little easier with tiles as opposed to issuing polygons. And just to ensure that everybody knows this is not how it works in the National Weather Service operations, where you don't get points like this. But in effect, you do gain points when something happens inside your warning, and you lose points when something happens and you didn't have a warning out. So there are penalties for missing phenomena. You can see the blinking circle there. That's the report that came in at that time. You can do tornado warnings, or you can do severe thunderstorm warnings. And you lose points every time you issue a warning. That's just sort of your cost of issuing a warning. But if something happens in that warning, you get a report inside that warning, then you recoup all those points and then some. It's sort of like bonus points you get for that. You also get penalized for keeping your warnings going too long, so you can cancel the warnings at the end. Anyway, you kind of get the idea. Goes back to what James said. Hey, he'd love to give you the chance to be the one issuing the warnings. Well, here you go, James. This is your
yes.
We'll have a WeatherBrains competition.
See how well you do.
Yeah.
So we built this. There's a funny story on this. We actually built this for the sort of the K through 12 education. Allow teachers to teach kids how warnings and how weather works and all that. And when we unveiled this at the AMS meeting at the WeatherFest, like I said, it was about 12 years ago the first time. Once the college kids discovered this, they were in there elbowing out the second graders.
Then the second graders are like, I don't have anything to do with it. The college kids have ruined it for us.
Well, the college kids never get a chance to issue warnings, so this is their chance to actually get on there and do it. So anyway, I wanted to draw your attention to that. It's kind of cute. It's not high research technology that NSSL is known for, but it's kind of fun. It's an educational thing, and we have grand ambitions for this thing to start doing competitions between individuals and competitions between universities and however else we want to do that, friendly competitions. So we'll see how it goes. We're going to have multiple scenarios too. And by the way, Brian, you recognize the county layout there? I don't know if you can see that.
Okay.
It is a Huntsville event.
Okay. Yes.
That's the Tennessee Valley and parts of North
Tennessee
Alabama,
Valley.
except the towns are different.
Yeah, we changed the names to protect all the weather geeks out there that know every single storm and therefore had the advantage. So we didn't want to give people an advantage just because they knew which storms had happened. So anyway, take a look at that. It's on NSSL's webpage, noaa.nssl.gov/education.
Yeah, I see Alabama gives you a lot of material. I was looking at your Warn on forecast, and it's the Tuscaloosa to Birmingham tornado from April 27th.
Yeah, that's you give us a lot of material. You do.
We try.
Stop that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of Warn on forecast, if I could jump in and really, I do want to talk about a success that we had just recently. Sort of showing the future of where NSSL is going. Can I do that, Bill?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we just we had a tornado in Elk City, Oklahoma, a couple of weeks ago, and there was it was an ideal situation. I really ought to have Rick Smith in here telling the story, and maybe you ought to do that at a later time. But let me give the synopsis. The forecasters in the Norman office knew that there were going to be severe storms out there, and they approached some of our warn on forecast researchers, the people who are developing the convective allowing models, the ensemble, and asked, "Why are you running it?" Because we had the hazardous weather test bed active that day. And they said, "Are you running the warn on forecast model?" And they said, "Yes, we are, matter of fact." And then he said, "Well, do you mind if we look at it?" And so what that warn on forecast output was showing repeatedly every 15 minutes, at about 90 minutes in advance, actually more than 90 minutes in advance, it was showing that right out there in Elk City, a narrow swath in Elk City, there's going to be high rotation potential. Updraft helicity is what it was keying in on. And there's going to be a narrow swath going right through Elk City. This is 90 minutes before the storm ever got close to that area. So the Norman office put out a severe weather statement saying there will be an increasing probability that tornado warnings will be issued in the Elk City area 90 minutes before it went out. And I went, bingo. There is the image of what the future holds for us, where you've got storm scale ensembles giving probabilistic information an hour advance, 2 hours in advance, and the forecasters are not issuing warnings, but they are issuing alerts to say that the probabilities are increasing out in this area, which those of you know some of the research I'm involved in, that's the facets approach, to take probabilistic information and increase those probabilities where the models are honing in on it. So boy, I saw that happen in Elk City. I said, boy, that future is really close. We are starting to see some things. We're doing a lot of that in the test bed already and showing great success. Emergency managers have been testing with us, and they're walking out of the door going, bring it on. This is exactly what we've been waiting for. We had broadcasters as well participate in that, and they are guiding us in the use of probabilistic information in a storm environment. And I think we're at the point, I made the comment to Alan Gerard the other day, I think we're at the point now where we can start laying out the building blocks to carry this into an operational realm, probably within 2 years or so, because we've kind of ruled out the things that don't work, and we are discovering the things that do work. That's the whole point of the test bed. So it's really an exciting time to be a part of the NSSL and the things that we're doing here.
So how does it look as compared to the original videos and things that we saw when you first started talking about it, Lance? How has it evolved through all that learning process?
Well, I think it's pretty close. I mean, the vision was that there would be these swaths of probability of rotation or tornado touching down or hail or wind damage, and what we are seeing is pretty close to that. Now, we, as part of facets, we are also looking at not just the meteorology, but also the social science, right? The human side of that. Do we actually put out numbers, or do we put out different words or colors to be a proxy for the probabilities? We are discovering, and some of the social science research bears it out, that people are actually pretty good with numbers. We don't seem to think they are, but they tend to understand generally what those numbers mean. I'm not saying that we're going to do exactly that, but there's enough there that suggests that giving some probabilities, even if it's on a relative scale, is something that people can comprehend and use.
Lance, I think Kevin's asking, when will some of the warn on forecast data be available publicly?
Right now, we are a ways away from that, because it takes a whole lot of computer processing to do that. The warn on forecast data, I believe, are available on an experimental basis when we are running the data on our website. So you go to the NSSL website. It's going to make a liar out of me because I'm not exactly sure where it is. We have some internal data and also some external data that get out there. It's not going to be in a manner where you can actually use it on air or anything like that. It's going to be a little rudimentary at this point.
So
We're probably
actually
5 years out from that.
Bill, we were in the sports segment here, so I've got a second to jump in. What I was asking really is, once it's operational, will that be available to the general public? And what I'm kind of doing is playing devil's advocate, and by saying, okay, the 384-hour GFS is now available to people forecasting in their pajamas in their basement, and we've seen what happens with that on social media. So I think it's cool, extremely cool. I'm just playing devil's advocate, but what happens when that data then gets into the general public, or will it be?
That's okay. I'm going to make a projection here. And that's that. Yeah, the data will be out there, just like any data, any model data that we have already. Eventually, the data will be out there. Right now, the computer processing needed to run it in real time. CONUS is just not there, but it will be eventually. And EMC, National Weather Services Modeling Center, is planning for that eventuality. And so, just let's face it, once those data start flowing out there, they're going to be going out to the public. My expectation and what we're seeing in the test bed is that the emergency managers and the broadcasters, as always, play a major role in the interpretation, right? Is to take the information and put it in layman's language so that the end users can understand it. Just like today, there's going to be various scales. There's going to be some people, public, who look at every model and kind of understand it, but there are other people who are going to need the interpretation from the broadcasters and emergency managers. And we're seeing that already.
Is part of your research, though, to consider what the irresponsible forecaster would do with it? I'm serious. Because, I think that's what's happened, isn't it? We see these things several days out, and it starts to early spread of severe weather panic. And so that's kind of where I'm playing devil's advocate. If this stuff is going to be out there, and then you've got somebody on Facebook going, okay, there's going to be a tornado in X spot in an hour and a half, that's going to cause problems.
Yes, well, that's a very good point. That comes close enough to people issuing their own warnings, much like we have some people doing that already. Right. So, yeah, that's one of those issues that we're going to have to step back and take a hold of that and deal with that as a profession. I don't think it's going to be researchers that are going to solve that. We are going to have to grapple with that one as a full profession.
Lance, are you doing at the test bed? Are you doing any runs in other parts of the country other than Oklahoma, North Central Texas? Okay.
Matter of fact, some of the scenarios we run are QLCS, derecho, afternoon July popcorn convection in the southeast, in the northeast. We learned our lesson, because everybody always gets the impression that everything we do in the test bed is all about supercells. We are way away from that. We are running all sorts of scenarios all around the country and bringing forecasters in from all around the country to be a part of this, to give us the guidance. So we knew that this can't be just a supercell only scenario. This has got to be universally applied to any scenario that gets thrown at us.
Is this also a severe thunderstorm primarily? The study is primarily severe thunderstorms, or is it going to include flash flooding or winter storms?
Yes, both, all. The whole notion behind facets, it's all environmental threats. We're starting in our wheelhouse, right? Severe convective, which includes flooding. But we're actually adding, and some of the media folks will like this, I think, we're actually adding lightning into that as part of lightning forecasting as a part of the facets paradigm. We are testing that and seeing some great success.
There are some of us who provide on-site support to outdoor events that love that.
Yeah. Yes.
I would love to have that.
So that's the notion. And so we've got sort of different channels going. Tornado, hail and wind, also lightning, also flash flooding. And again, that's our wheelhouse in NSSL, but we are long-term anticipating the facets approach being applied to aviation weather, to winter weather, to fire weather, that wherever there's a phenomenon that has a probability of occurring, there you have.
Uh-oh. Somebody's gone. Can you hear me, Brian?
Hello,
James.
I can hear James and you, but I think we've lost Lance.
Yep, I do too.
The plug. Now, I love having Lance on here. He's a great guest. He's coming back. He has just joined the video call.
Now we have two of him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Your alter ego is still there, but unfortunately, it looks like you're asleep with your mouth open.
It looks like Max Kellerman has gone to sleep.
My evil twin.
Your evil twin, absolutely.
So how many years do we have facets, in the public?
Okay, so here's the researcher side of me. My researcher answer is going to depend on how the Weather Service adopts it, picks it up, and goes with it. I would say that we could deliver some of those things probably within the next 3 to 4 years. It's going to depend on Weather Service and whether they're ready for it and whether they want to, how they want to implement it. If they want to implement it, there's some decisions that have to be made at higher levels of Weather Service before we do that.
And what about plus or minus LRR? That's Lant Rotfu's retirement.
That's between me and my wife. That's as far as I'm going on that one.
Aha!
So Lance, just one last question on facets. What were some of the things that haven't worked? Can you share some of those things? Some things that you discovered don't work, because we can use some of that in our day-to-day.
What we know for a fact is that forecasters are horrible at coming up with probabilities on their own.
Why does that not surprise me?
Well, you had to test the notion, right? So we
Right.
actually put forecasters down and said, here's this storm, and you're responsible for drawing a probability plume around that storm and give it whatever probability of tornado occurrence you think would be appropriate. We have discovered that we kind of knew this already, but forecasters are all over the map when it comes to understanding probabilities and how they apply to this, especially to putting out a probability on a storm. That all comes down to definitions and training. To be able to calibrate our forecasters so that when they say 60% probability, that's going to be 60% across the board. Every forecaster in a similar situation would say 60%. That's a major training activity. And Brian and I know this. I mean, when they brought in NEXRAD radars, they sent us all away for training in Norman to learn how to use those radars, right?
Right.
I see this as just that same sort of paradigm shift, is that we cannot just throw that out there and expect them to work. We're going to have to take on a whole heavy load of a training program to make sure that these forecasters are putting out good quality information in terms of those probabilities. So that's one thing we learned right off the bat. Forecasters, you can't just expect them to do it. They have a terrible time creating probabilities from scratch. They need guidance.
Yeah.
Lance, we had a letter from someone who worked with you a couple of years ago. I thought it was very inspiring, and if it's okay with Aubrey, I'm going to share it. So, Aubrey, give me a nod up and down, or
You're good.
you're good.
Go for it.
Yeah. Someone who worked with you a couple of years ago, Zach Bruick, wrote us a really nice note. He had listened in 2015 to episode 493 when you were the guest, and
Uh-oh.
Oh no, did he freeze?
Bill's dropped out now.
That was a cliffhanger.
Apparently, Aubrey didn't want him to read that email.
I sabotaged.
She put the voodoo on him.
I did. I don't want to read it. He really wanted to read it, so
He'll come back.
he'll come back.
Is James
think-
gone too?
No,
I'm
James
here.
is still there. He's still there.
James, when I asked him, Lance, about this data getting out into the public realm, you must have a comment on that.
I have your same concern, Kevin.
James
kind
is
of
speaking very carefully and directly. Go back to the
Yes.
pre-show for more
That's
information.
good. Yes, exactly. No, it's just good news, bad news. I guess you could look that way, but I do have the same concern. Yes, I'll put it that way. I'm trying to be nice. So who's missing here, Bill?
Let me put it.
There he goes.
Bill's
Okay,
still out.
because
yeah.
I had to drop off and go do something next door, and it looked like Bill dropped off. Okay, I see what y'all are doing now. Okay,
He froze up and went away.
okay.
He's coming back.
So
What are you going to say, Lance?
I was going to say, I almost put it in the same category of radar data. 20, 30 years ago, the general public didn't have radar data. And I seem to recall similar conversations taking place when suddenly the radar data are going to be out there for people to make their own decisions based on that. Well, guess what? They are. But they still rely on the professional interpretation of what they're seeing on the radar screen. So, yeah, it might be a little threatening to see a different data flow, different information. I, for one, is not one to say that we should withhold information, withhold the data. It's just going to be up to us to be careful in our care and management and communication of what we're seeing.
Yeah, I would agree with that point. I'm sort of paid here to be devil's advocate, and I would suggest that the landscape is different in that 30 years ago, the information was not as readily and widely distributed in as many ways as it is now. And I still think that's one of the things that's causing a lot of this anxiety that we're talking about in other areas is the social media distribution of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I have no doubt, which is, again, part of the reason, as part of the facets approach, is we are bringing in the sociologists, the human factors folks, the psychologists, to ensure that whatever information we're communicating, it's utilized in the best way by the public, by the broadcasters. I'm not saying we're going to have the answer, but I think it does show that we're taking steps to be careful about how that information is being put out. We fall in the trap all too often. We in our meteorological profession fall in the trap too often, thinking we have the right answers. You start talking to an anthropologist and a sociologist, psychologist, you realize, man, there's a whole different perspective on how humans use information and make their decisions that we have no idea. So we got to listen very carefully to what they're suggesting.
Right. I mean, I hate to use this analogy, but it goes back to the bomb, right? Hey, we didn't, we who created the bomb didn't decide how it was going to be used. We just created it. It's up to somebody else to make that decision. And clearly these are not equal comparisons, but it kind of is the same problem.
Yeah.
Hey, Lance, is there any planning that some of this training that you're talking about would also be made available for meteorologists outside the Weather Service?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're talking a paradigm change, right?
Yeah.
And so this is not something that the Weather Service is going to do on their own and say, hey, well, good luck out there, all the end user. This has got to be a whole partnership all the way across the board. In the plans that we wrote for doing this, we had exactly that this is going to have to be broadcaster training, emergency manager training, the whole weather enterprise can have to be trained on how the data might be used.
Okay, let me ask you that then. And I keep beating this dead horse, but one of my complaints, and everybody knows, is about social media is that there's no way to control it. Right? You can't. The horse gets out of the barn, and then the other problem is I think that we legitimize these platforms as platforms or distribution channels by being there ourselves, and that legitimized them for others to do the same thing, which caused a problem, I think.
No, you get no argument from me on that.
Like-minded there, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, guys, we got to stop and do the pre-recorded segments. And Lance, if you can, hang on for just a few minutes. We're going to do Picks of the Week. And let me see. I'll tell you what, why Aubrey's here. Want to do email Aubrey?
We can. Does Bill want to get to his letter first?
Will that be
Oh,
okay?
yeah, Bill, you got cut off at the beginning of it.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was just pouring it out, and then Google tells me, "Oh, snap!" of all things. So I'm like, I don't know what that means. But Lance, we got a really nice letter from someone that you were associated with, a student who reached out to you from Valparaiso a couple of years ago in 2015 after he heard you on the show, and he was going into the Hollings program, and you connected him with who eventually would be working with him there, and he just couldn't say enough nice things because of all the accomplishments that he's been able to do now because you opened those doors for him. And we always tell this to students, it's really important to be brave and reach out and make those connections, and we have to applaud that level of mentorship on your part. Comment on that for a second, because we really wanted to applaud you tonight for doing that.
Well, thank you. That was very nice to hear. That happens so often in a career where you got young folks coming in and interested in getting in, and the worst thing you can do is push them away, right? You encourage them, you point out the realities of the business and the the challenges, the grades that you got to have, whatever it takes to get through the system, and the competitive work, the market that's out there.
Math.
But if you give them a dose of reality of what it's like, and say if you're still passionate about it, then go after it. And I just love that. I've got several examples of that, of people that I didn't know it at the time. You're just sort of connecting people with other people, and lo and behold, Patrick Marsh, for one in particular, was just I think a middle schooler when I was at MIC in Tulsa. He dropped in the Tulsa office for a tour, and I spent an hour and a half with him. I had no idea who that was. I forgot all about him. And then when I went to Norman at NSSL, he walks up to me one day and say, "Hey, I just got my PhD, or I'm now a PhD doctor in meteorology, and I owe it all to you because that hour and a half you spent with me giving a tour." I think everybody on this panel probably has stories like that too. So I don't want to take credit for anything special here.
We thought it was great, though. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
But it does underscore the importance of those contacts. You just never know. One of my success stories was Jason Simpson, and he never even came up and introduced himself to me at a spotter training session. But that really, moved him to get into meteorology.
I'll remind everyone too that I was James' first intern, and one day I'm going to get him for it.
On that note, let's toss it over to Aubrey and see if she's got some email to read.
Letters. We get letters. We get stacks and stacks of letters.
All right, let me make sure I'm not on mute. No, I'm good. Okay. This one, I'm going to cover up the name because I just don't want to accidentally say it. This is an anonymous email about last week's show. This person noticed the irony about last week covering relationships and couples. This person just went through a difficult breakup and they weren't sure if they would enjoy the show as much, but this person says that actually made them feel a lot more positive and laughed a lot, and specifically says WeatherBrains much more than just a weather podcast. So really nice note, and told this person to keep their chin up, but glad it wasn't depressing and it was actually fun. Very lighthearted last week.
Very nice.
It was a really good episode. And next we have a listener survey response coming in from James Frank from Hopewell Township, Pennsylvania. Found the show through James Spann himself. Very content right now listening to anything that comes up on the show. I hope to gain depth and insights from the weather community and see what things are taking shape currently with new technologies and ideas. Keep up the good work. And James said he wished he had known earlier in life that there was a network of weather weenies. A full-blown network of us. Daniel Lucas, I didn't really read, I'm not really familiar with this, but Daniel Lucas sent us a note. Ex-weatherman sues Gloria Allred for malpractice.
Wow.
Something about being passed over promotions in favor of attractive younger women.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yes.
You better lose the beard there, Kevin.
I think Aubrey's emails have given me the third generation WeatherBrains t-shirt. It's going to say, it's not just weather, it's therapy.
Oh, I like that.
I like it. That's all right.
I like that one. And we do have one for, let's see. Oh, James, did you want to, this guest from Leah Daly?
Yeah, Leah, she wants to be on the show, Bill. We got to get Leah on there. In fact, she got some great tornado video today from out in either Nebraska or Wyoming. There have been so many photogenic tornadoes, and she's out there shooting a video today. So, yeah, Leah was an intern here years and years ago, and she works in the private sector in North Dakota, and I think she'd be fun to be on the show.
Does she have a Twitter feed or something where we can see this stuff?
Yes. Bill can talk for her. Aubrey can do email. I'll give you her.
Here it is. Daily Weather, Dailey. Yeah.
Daily Weather.
Let's see. Yes, that's it. Dailey Weather.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's her. That's Leah. So go follow her, and you can see her tornado stuff today.
Awesome. Saw some pictures coming out of Wyoming earlier today. So pretty incredible. So that's all I have for emails. If you have an email you would like to send us, email at weatherbrains.com. And final check, I have no new messages from anyone in the OKC community, but I have put out a Twitter notice. So we are on standby for anyone still willing to come on the show. And it will be a fun show and a polite show. So email us, email@weatherbrains.com, your guest suggestions with contact information, what you like about the show, maybe a topic that you have in mind or a topic that you really liked that you want us to talk about again. You can also find us on the Facebook and the Twitter, or as James says, the tweeter.
On the tweeter. All right, so let's take a quick pause here. I don't see a Tony Rice report this week, but I've got a Professor Peters. We'll come back with the weather roundup, the picks of the week, and more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
WeatherBrains 101 with Professor Peters.
In our last episode of 101, I mentioned how the new GO-16 satellite sets a record with the first lightning detector flown in geostationary orbit. So it's time for a 101 rant. One type of lightning that I can assure you the latest geostationary satellite will not detect is heat lightning. Heat lightning is a term used to describe summer lightning discharges, which are seen at great distances from an observer, so no thunder is heard. The term silent lightning is sometimes used to describe this too. There really is no such thing as heat lightning. What happens is that lightning occurs with a thunderstorm that exists a considerable distance from the observer. This is most likely to occur with air mass thunderstorms in the warm season. This means that the storm itself is not seen and the lightning occurring does not result in thunder being heard at the observer's location. Because these occurrences often happen in the summer, typically July and August, when it is hot and hazy and when humidity levels are usually fairly high, the term heat lightning became associated with these events. All of these conditions promote the transmission of light for great distances. But with our great network of weather radars, you'll find that every lightning flash you see is really occurring with a thunderstorm, even if it is 80 miles or more from your location. So the next time you hear someone talk about heat lightning, zap them straight with your knowledge of what is really happening. End of rant. But if you have a question about the weather, drop an email to question@weatherbrains.com.
And for those that happen to be watching, one of my little pet peeves is when people misspell lightning and they spell it lightening.
Yes.
The worst possible thing you can do is send me a report about heat lightening. I mean, it's just all over the place. I mean, so before my head explodes, let's see if we got a weather roundup here.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
Uh-oh, Brian, did I mess up?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I messed up, but that was supposed to be the one for next week.
Oh, you're not supposed to work a week ahead?
Well, I have to because it's going to be Thursday.
Oh, that's true.
I thought I put it under. I thought I put it under 595, but maybe I put it under. Maybe I got it backwards.
That's my fault. Totally my fault. We do have a Tony Rice astronomy report, so let's roll Tony's report, and then we'll come back and do the weather roundup. Here's my man, Tony.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook.
The hype is just beginning ahead of the August 21st total solar eclipse. But this is nothing new. This rare celestial treat is worthy of a little bit of buildup, especially when it comes to raising awareness about eye safety. That's just what the late Charles Schultz did in his Peanuts comic strip ahead of the total solar eclipse of July 20th, 1963. Looking back at those strips today, we can see that his heart was in the right place, but his advice was a bit mixed. Now, Schultz is no stranger to astronomy and the space program. The Apollo 10 command module was named Charlie Brown, and the lunar module Snoopy. Schultz even sketched special artwork for the mission. Still today, the highest honor a NASA employee can receive is the Silver Snoopy Award. It's presented personally by the Astronaut Corps. Back on Monday, July 15th, 1963, Schultz began a week of Peanut strips devoted to the eclipse that Saturday. You can see them online at gocomics.com/peanuts. That Monday, Linus quoted his ophthalmologist, cautioning Charlie Brown against looking at the eclipse. He said that sunglasses, smoke glass, photographic negatives, and even welder's glass isn't enough to safely view an eclipse. On Tuesday, Linus cautioned Lucy about retinal damage. On Wednesday, Linus lamented that the eclipse was viewable only in certain areas. And then the week was closed out with a fantastic demonstration of a pinhole projector to safely view the eclipse. Now, while Schultz's heart was in the right place, protecting his fans of the Strip from damaging their eyesight, his facts were a bit off. He's absolutely right that sunglasses and smoke glass aren't enough, but some welder's glasses are, specifically welder's glass number 14. And admittedly, ISO 12312-2 certified eclipse glasses probably weren't around in 1963, and certainly not the cardboard kind we can get for a few dollars today. This August, though, all of the continental United States and much of North America will be able to enjoy at least a partial eclipse. The path of totality in 1963, though, passed through a lot of sparsely populated areas in northern Canada, but it did come down bisecting Montreal and Quebec City before passing through Bangor, Maine. So I guess the Strip's advice did apply to nearly all of his audience when Linus boldly claimed there is no safe method for looking directly at an eclipse. However, he went on to say it is especially dangerous when it is a total eclipse. That's not just wrong, it's technically wrong. During totality, the point when the moon completely covers the sun, actually no eye protection is necessary, and it's also the best time to view the eclipse. Stars emerge from the sun's glare, and you'll be able to see the sun's corona. This is something you don't want to miss. It's your Astronomy Outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
Okay, so Brian, I'll run the one that was supposed to run tonight, Thursday. How about that?
Okay, that's fine.
All right, that'll work. So let's do weather roundup. Kevin, let's see.
Wait a second, James, I have breaking news.
Uh-oh, stand by, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if I can press the magic button here.
We interrupt this program for a CBS Radio Net Alert Bulletin.
So we've had one person so far respond to our invitation for some Oklahoma City Mets, and that would be Mr. Damon Lane.
Ooh, okay. There you go, Bill Murray.
He says, sweet when?
Bill, you're the guest booking officer.
Writing it down, sir.
All right.
Can he come now?
Bring him on the show. We got NBA basketball on here. He can come on right now.
Let's
no, that's great.
Special extra show tonight.
All right.
Great,
so weather roundup.
Wasn't Ashley Pratt interning with Damon? I think she interned with him. You know, she did that research project that we had on a few weeks ago, and I think that would be great. I appreciate Damon coming on.
It's been a while since we've had one, too.
And, you know, our company actually owns a station in Oklahoma City. I'll see if I can find out who does the weather there. But, yeah, we're going to make this happen. We are going to make this happen. All right, weather roundup. Barbara, you say the dew point in the 50s, high in the 80s. When are you going to hit 90?
Probably tomorrow because I forecast 89.
Yep. That's the way it works. Yeah, so it looked like Boston and New York City. Weren't they at 90 today?
Looked like the Ohio Valley was too.
Yeah, pretty hot. Kevin, how hot is it in Wichita Falls?
It's so hot.
How hot is it?
So hot.
It's so hot that Aubrey would melt. No, we're going to warm up the next few days. The dry line is well to the west of me, so you know that moist air doesn't heat as efficiently. What's been fascinating around here, and I think even in the Twitterverse, is, and maybe I'm just making this up, but it seems to me that there have been many more pictures of downbursty type things going by, and I've retweeted a couple of them, but they're just fantastic. These tiny little isolated thunder showers with heavy precipitation, and it just feels like there are more of them. Maybe I'm just seeing more of them, but they're really cool. I've retweeted a couple, and we were away for a few days down to College Station where Texas A&M is, and oh my gosh, just an absolute beautiful shelf cloud on a thunderstorm south of Dallas. Tracy got a picture with iPhone out the window of the car, and it's on my Twitter feed. But I wish I could have stopped and taken some really good high quality pictures. It was one of those that you've seen pictures of, this almost vertical shelf cloud that just kept developing, that you've seen pictures of and you never thought you'd get to see in person. And we watched it in person rolling down the highway, and it was just beautiful, which has nothing to do with the weather roundup, but I wanted to get it in there anyway.
I want to say I saw one from Austin that was just awesome. I agree.
Yes.
Lance, what's happening in Oklahoma?
90 degrees.
It's hot.
You got 90.
90, 90, 90, maybe get to 89, but we're right at there. We're in the doldrums.
The main action today was up north of you, Wyoming, Nebraska, South Dakota. Is it, Lance, correct me if I'm wrong, the tornado watch issued for parts of Wyoming today was a PDS watch. Did I see a tweet from SPC? That's the first PDS watch ever for any part of Wyoming?
I didn't see that. I'm not surprised, though. We actually had NSSL crews up there doing a research project. So some of those videos you're saying may have actually come from some of our crews. I got to go back and look at that and see. But yeah, I'm not surprised. That would be the first time for Wyoming.
Yeah, very photogenic tornadoes.
You're correct, James. I saw the tweet. This is the first PDS watch for Wyoming.
Yeah.
Wow. How about that? But and I saw a couple of tornado warning polygons with nobody in them. Once again, zero population. So that's the way it works sometimes. So that's going on, and maybe evidence of tropical mischief in the Southwest Gulf next week. That's where these things form early in the season, and whether we don't know if it develops at all, or if it drifts over into Mexico, or if a trough north of there pulls it north. We don't know that yet. We'll talk about that in a week. But other than that, the tropics are pretty quiet.
Lance does. He's just not telling.
Yeah, Aubrey just hung up on us. Did you? Who made her mad? Wow.
She had to go.
She had to go. I understand. So, Brian Peters, what's happening in Helena, Alabama?
Well, I put out a rather brazen forecast yesterday for a string of 60% days, and the thunderstorms just wanted to spite me. They missed me today. I got 0.02.
Wow. I think,
as my wife said, we got like a ton of thunder.
It's the thunderstorm lottery we have here every day in the summer down here. These air mass, hit and miss, splash and dash popcorn showers drive me crazy. To this day, here we are in 2017, and I cannot tell people it's 7 o'clock in the morning when or where it's going to rain at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We have no skill set. So we wind up putting out these forecasts for 3 months. Every day they say the same thing: warm and humid, partly sunny with scattered afternoon and evening thunderstorms. Probability of precipitation is 30%. So you're trying to plan a picnic at 4:30 at Lake Lurleen. That doesn't help you a bit. I mean, and I don't think the next generation is going to get it. It's up to the guys at NSSL to get it,
That's
Lance.
right.
This is your challenge.
Lance knows. He's just not saying.
That's right. We're getting
It's
close.
your showtime.
We're starting to see some things that are exciting. It'll turn your head. Just give us time.
Okay, you heard it on this show. I can't wait. But anyway, that's what's going on. Let's do picks of the week. Mine is the NHC data site. You can go back at archive products from the National Hurricane Center. Sometimes it is helpful to go back and look at previous events, and the link will be on weatherbrains.com. Brian Peters, what's your pick of the week?
Well, I was thinking about this one and driving home the other day, and I happened to notice the Capitol Weather Gang did a little thing about why your car thermometer is almost always wrong. I actually disagree with them because mine's actually pretty good, but it's a very interesting article about where your thermometer is and the kind of thermometer that's used. So, I think it's a good read, and the videos on there are pretty good too.
Very cool. All right, Kevin, what's your pick of the week?
Well, it has nothing to do with weather. It has to do with social media, which I will often go into, but it is a piece on 60 Minutes by Anderson Cooper called Brain Hacking.
Wow.
Let's get social with social media.
Are you going to wear tinfoil on your head there, Kevin, so there's no brain hacking?
I want to get those social media song people on the show one time.
Well, they can sing it live.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lance, I've held off as long as possible, trying to give you time to come up with a pick of the week. What you got for us?
Pick of the week. So
this could be a website, weather hardware, software, apps, anything.
Gave it away with my hot seat thing. That would have been my
that's a good one. I like it.
Pick of the week right there. Sorry.
Give us the web link to all of your data.
All right, Bill Murray, what's your pick of the week?
My pick of the week, James, is all the guests that are going to be coming up in the coming weeks. Aubrey's going to have a special.
Wait a minute. You get the.
Darn, I thought I was going to get away with it there for a second.
No.
Aubrey's got her Ghost 16 class Thursday night with Sheldon Cusselson and Dave Jones. We we'll of course skip the following Monday, and Nate has Micah Blinsky talking about weather photography on the 26th. And then I've asked 10 people for Monday, July 3rd, and I've been turned down by 10 people. So no one wants to do the show.
We can do that could be the Oklahoma City TV weather special.
Okay, good. Well, I'm going to ask Damon if he can fit us in for Monday night, July the 3rd, the night before Independence Day. And then I'm really excited for Monday, July the 10th, because we'll have Dr. Patrick Marsh from the SPC. It's going to be fun.
All right.
Ask him where he got it started.
Yeah. We have inside
question.
information on him.
So that's going to be very exciting. Thank you very much.
I'll see old Patrick next week in Kansas City.
Yeah, if he's still speaking to us, then we'll have him on.
That's right. I bet to say after this he might run. So listen, and again, as Bill said, we have a logistical issue in that I'm on vacation next week. I'll be out of town. I say vacation. I'll be going to the AMS broadcast conference and a quick trip to Florida. But so we're going to do 2 shows this week. We'll have a Thursday night special that will be a Thursday night of this week. Then we'll be off next week, and we'll come back on the regular Monday schedule. So I do believe. Do what, Kevin?
It's not the AMS meeting. It's Unified Message Mania.
Yeah, Unified Message Mania is going to be in Kansas City. Hey, listen, we typically do this show Monday nights at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. If you want to watch, most people watch it at live.bigbrainsmedia.com. But we know most of you listen. We thank you for listening on your favorite podcast app. To get in touch with us, our email address, it is email@weatherbrains.com. Our social media accounts and all that stuff's up on the website as well. So hope you join us for the next show, which will be Thursday night of this week. And what day is that? That is June the 8th. So on behalf of the entire...
August 15th.
Wait. It's today's the 12th? It can't be the 8th.
Back in time.
See, when you get old, you don't know what day it is, what year it is. You don't know
We're going
where you
back
are.
to the future. It's the 15th.
You don't know why I'm here. On behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks a lot for listening. Have a great week, and God bless. Boy.
Can you say?
I need a vacation.
Hey, Lance, thanks for coming on the show. You were great.
Thanks, Lance. It was awesome.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Thanks, Lance.
We'll see you.